right, I just assume we get this webinar started. It's 1 o'clock. I appreciate everybody for being here and being, on time. And before I turn this thing over to Jeff, I do just want to say a couple quick words. First of all, I think I speak on behalf of all of SRS Distribution and all of our employees and our vendors and partners, and we say that we hope all of you guys are well and that you're riding this thing out in a healthy and productive way. And just a little word of advice, turn the news off because, man, I think we could probably muster about 20 minutes a day of that, and then we can go back to some degree of sanity. Look, I have up on the screen right now just a quote that I threw together that I think really personifies where many of us are at right now. We all know that this COVID-19 disruption is going to end. I mean, it will end at some point. The question is when. But the key thing that I want you guys to all just consider is the fact that, as an industry, we're all in this together. And we believe that, if we work together, that we can come out of this situation significantly stronger than we were before we went in. And that's really what we're all about and what we're doing here with these webinars. Just to kind of bring you up to speed, and just want to keep you guys updated on what we're doing. If you go to the SRS Distribution website, at the top of the page, there's a COVID-19 banner that you could click on that'll take you to this screen here. And this is actually, I believe it's just been updated to include a lot more relevant information for everybody. But we're constantly adding new webinar topics. The next meeting we have is, I believe, Thursday. We're going to do a company story workshop and hopefully get you guys started on how you can really build out that virtual, sales presentation. On the 14th, we're going to do a topic that is really more for owners and business, sales managers, to talk about how do we create a coaching culture. How do we set clear expectations of our salespeople and hold them accountable to achieving the results that we want and need them to achieve. On the 16th, I'm going to talk about the storm selling process, which I humbly and respectfully believe is a bit broken. And we're going to talk about how you can incorporate some of the really important stuff that we're doing on the retail side of things, how we can meld that into the storm process for the benefit of helping us not only secure the agreement, but collect the deductible, reduce cancellations, and set the table for upselling. On the 17th, we've got a meeting scheduled where we're going to talk about with Predictive Sales AI, which is the company that we've partnered with in our Roof Hub application. They're the ones who do all of our hail maps, and they have got a really cool, lead generation tool that actually will allow you guys to capture data on the people that are affected within the storm, and then door knock virtually those people for the benefit of generating leads. And then the lead capture is really sweet because it gives you a ton of demographic information that you can use to really put you in the best position to close the sale. And I do just want to highlight, guys, this was something that we kind of threw together at last minute, but this Friday at 11 a.m. Central Time, we've got the Vice President of Government Affairs from the NRCA who's going to do a virtual town hall meeting for all of our customers. Guys, the government has created a lot of stimulus money that they're giving back to for the benefit of allowing you to continue to pay your employees paychecks and also to provide you guys with some relief if your revenue is suffering, as a result of the COVID-19 disruption. We want to make sure that you're in the best position to take full advantage of those opportunities. And we're going to have a guy on hand on Friday who's going to talk a little bit about those programs, but then what we're going to do is just open it up for you guys to ask all of your questions. This QR code on the page, if you scan that with your cell phone camera, it will open up the link on your phone for you guys to register, which is something that I'd encourage you all to do. I think right now we're at about 450 people on this thing, and I think we can get up to 1,000. I've got to upgrade with Zoom to get the extra seats, but we want to make sure that everybody's has the opportunity to be involved. So here's the deal. I'm going to flip my screen over to Jeffrey, and while he's kind of getting his stuff together and getting his screen set up, I'm going to introduce him. Now let me see. Jeff, are you able to, I'm going to mute you. Oh, look at you. You're muted yourself. Can you unmute yourself, big guy? There you go.
Hey, John, how you doing?
Good. I don't know how you can share your screen. Do you have the control to be able to hit share on your end?
Well, let me take a look.
What are you, in your shed?
Hey, after watching you on the webinar yesterday, I had to be able to step up my game as well, right?
Fantastic.
I have, let me see here. You able to see me in the presentation right now?
I see the presentation behind you. I just want to figure out how we can get that up on the big screen.
Let me try to see if I can share that out different.
So while Jeff's playing over there, I'm going to just introduce this guy. Jeff is the CEO of Cutter Croy, which is really one of the, I guess, premier companies in the roofing industry, and they are just loaded with a ton of really passionate people that are committed, like SRS, to delivering solutions to the building industry. They really focus on helping contractors and suppliers and even just manufacturers solve problems that by adapting to their cloud platform and mobile applications. They provide contractor solutions specific to like customer relationship management, workflow and process management, job estimating and quoting, scheduling, warranty tracking, material procurement, compliance, and document management. And I will tell you guys just a little secret, Cutter Croy is really working behind the scenes with our Roof Hub team to provide you with a lot of the really sexy things that we're going to be talking about in the coming months. I will tell you that, I've had the privilege of working with a lot of organizations over the course of my, short career, and these guys do represent the best of the best. And I think that one of the reasons why we're so pleased to be able to work with them is because they are just all about helping contractors win, which is kind of what SRS is all about. So it really gives me great pleasure and honor to let Jeffrey just do what he does. So take it away, Jeff.
Thank you so much. Thanks for the kind words. You're obviously too kind. Hopefully you're seeing my screen, John. Is that,
yeah,
is that
we're good.
Out?
Yes, sir.
Perfect. So want to start today. First of all, thank you. Thank you to SRS. Thank you to John. Thanks for all the leadership that SRS is offering in this time of crisis. I want to go ahead and drill into the presentation today, which is really talking about, that magic bullet. What is the magic bullet to scaling the business? John and I are also part of a podcast that we're doing. We're both panelists on a organization, Blueprint for the New Reality. So this could be found on Facebook. One of the things that you sit there and you look at is the topic, scaling your business. Does this make sense to be talking about now? With everything going on with COVID-19, here we all are locked in our offices or in our sheds or in our homes with our wives and our kids, and we're trying to talk right now about growing the business. Is this the right time? Blueprint for New Reality is a Facebook group that was started with a number of panelists that are all talking about the issues facing the roofing industry. How do we take and make hay out of the situation that we've been given? So John is a panelist on that. I'm a panelist. A lot of great people there. Nathan Higgs over at Higgs Professional really pulled this together. So I'd encourage you to go through and join that. As far as the topic for today, so scaling up, why is that relevant right now? Well, from our perspective, from GiddyUp, we really see two different types of clients right now, right? You definitely have those contractors that are kind of waiting for things to happen, right? Man, the government's stopping me from knocking on doors. How am I going to grow my business? All of this stuff is happening to me. So we definitely see that, and it's very easy. I think John's advice of turning off the TV, I think we've all been guilty of that. You go in and you start believing the hype, and it gets depressing. It gets overwhelming. The other type of customer that we see are those roofers that are going through and they're figuring out, great, these are the cards that I've been given. how do I react? How do I go through, and instead of waiting on something, how do I become proactive and take advantage of the situation, adapt my business, and move forward? And what we're seeing is a lot of customers, a lot of the successful ones, quite honestly, are looking at this as a time to take a pause, react, and go through and kind of hone their processes, right? So what better time to train than when you have everybody sitting in, in their homes. Now you go through and you train and you reevaluate what you're doing and you figure out that new way forward. So I'd encourage everybody, A, turn off the TV, and B, think about this. Use this as a time to reflect, not only on your business, but also on your family and your relationships, what you're doing going forward. So a little bit of background about me, who am I? Why am I here talking to you about scaling a business? So, have I ever been a roofer? Is Cutter Croy owned by a roofing company? No. I've never been a roofer, quite honestly. Scared to death of heights. Didn't realize I was afraid of heights until, I was the CIO for a construction company. I've been involved in the trade since I was 16 years old. So at 16, I went to work for an $800 million specialty trade contractor. We had 10 different companies, everything from excavation to asbestos abatement, lead abatement, actually equipment fabrication. That's where I've developed some of my AutoCAD skills. And while I was there, I climbed. We were doing demolition for a power plant, and I actually had to climb one of the telephone poles to put in an antenna on the pole. And that's when I realized I was afraid of heights. So a lot of respect for you roofers that are out there climbing those steep pitches. I would definitely make a big hole if I fell off. So I'm going to stick to the geeky software side. My background, I think, why I'm telling you this, my background, I've been in the trades. So obviously going through and understanding, what I was ingrained with is really that the field drives the business. And this Italian construction company taught me a lot of things. One, about being very entrepreneurial, and second, about how you're going through. The field is where the money is made, and you want to use tools that help enable it, right? They were very process driven. They had a lot of very repeatable tasks, and this is what they used to scale across all their businesses. So that was something that was pretty earth-shattering to me, something that I took away and used in our business. While I was there, so at 16 years old, by the time I was 17, I was writing software for that business, writing accounts payable, receivable, job costing, filling in AIA payment schedule forms. So got a lot of experience there and actually worked with that company all the way through college. So I was running their IT department from Ohio State, where I got my degree in software engineering. After that, I came back to the company and was CIO for that business and helped them grow to a regional company serving the whole Eastern Seaboard. So very, very proud of my time there, and have really developed that passion for the trades. That was a great start in my career. After that, I left and I went to a company, Bell & Howell, company you guys may recognize as the movie projectors. Well, what we also did was created electronic parts catalogs for looking up parts in the auto industry. So my client was Mercedes-Benz, started working there, learned how to develop scalable software there, and was actually part of a team that looked to grow the business. And we launched a new company called OE Connection. There was a joint venture with GM, Ford, and Chrysler. So us four companies went and really kind of revolutionized the parts world in the auto industry. And that's where a lot of my supply chain management skills came in. So there we learned, in a matter of a month, we went from 0 Ford customers to 3,000 customers were using our product to locate parts across the country in all their dealerships. So that's where really I learned how to go through and build scalable solutions really looked at optimizing supply chains for the distribution. We were involved in all the GM, Ford, Chrysler, all their parts distribution, moving idle inventory. So a lot of the stuff you'll see in our products is some of the vision that we've kind of, gained or learned watching that industry. Last piece about my career was I owned a managed service company and sold that to a national company based in Cleveland, Ohio. And what we did there was really helped companies run the IT infrastructure. So that was all about systems and processes and coming in as an outside consultant and helping a business put the processes in place that they needed to make sure that their infrastructure was solid and was good. So we actually ran the medical space. One of my clients created all of the linear accelerators that delivered radiation to cancer patients. So if our software, if our systems, if our stuff was down, it was actually, people could die from that. So very humbling and very good experience for us. So all of that said, that really kind of goes to who I am. And as we go through it, kind of give you that slant to how we approach business and apply it to the roofing space. So first question I want to ask is, what does scaling mean? Everybody talks about scaling their business. What does it mean to you? And I think that's something you really got to pause and think to yourself about. Do you measure yourself on the amount of overhead you create, right? A lot of people go out there and say, oh, I have 50 employees, I have 60 employees. Well, is that really a measure, or are you looking at the number of locations you have? Great, we started out small and now we're in 15 different markets. Is that what you use to measure it? Or are you looking at jobs? Hey, we started out, we did 100 jobs the first year, then 200, then 700. Now we're at 5,000 jobs a year. Is that what you use to measure? Maybe. It's a good one. Or revenue, right? Are you looking at revenue, or are you looking at what you actually put in your pocket? So I think when you talk about scaling, you can talk about different key performance indicators and things that you're using to measure. And that's one thing that I would encourage everybody to do, is look at how are you measuring the health of your business so that you can look and see where you've been and where you're going, and are you on track for that to make the progress that you're looking for. So magic bullet, really what we're talking about today is, what is that magic bullet? What does everybody need that's going to make them successful and it's going to help them scale? Well, I hate to tell you, there's not one magic bullet. There's not a magic pill. There's many, right? And the first one, this is coming back from our observations as a software company and as a company that really is involved intimately with the business of our clients, right? The first one that we see from everybody that's successful, the first trait is really that they have a secret sauce. So what do I mean by a secret sauce? That is something that is innately built into the DNA of the company of how they go through and how they provide their services to the customer. How do they separate themselves? How do you differentiate yourself from your competition? Anybody can go out and hang a shingle and say, hey, look at me, I am now a Me Too business, and I am going to go through and do the same thing that everybody else did. Well, what's your sauce to that? Are you low-cost leader? Are you selling it on service? How are you differentiating yourself? We all know when a hailstorm hits, when we're talking about the storm chasing world that John started off with, everybody's out there and you're knocking doors and you're competing. What are you doing that separates you from everybody else, right? One secret sauce that we see is somebody that's making it repeatable and it's doing it over and over again. At GiddyUp, our secret sauce, we really go through and we pride ourselves that we fit our software to the company and not the company to the software. We're very customer focused. Is that what you're employing in your business? You really got to think. There's no answer. I can't go through and tell you, hey, you know what? The secret sauce is you need to do X. The secret there is you need to have what X is. You need to have that sauce. And that's a trait that, I kind of underestimated in the beginning, but the more and more that I look at the successful clients, the ones that are opening offices year after year and are growing, they all have that secret sauce as they're going through. So the next one, the next thing that we see is focus, right? So it's very easy to go through and chase a million different things. And it's easy to go through and let the day, every morning when you get up and you get out of bed, you're going, as a business owner, we're all hit by a million different things pulling us in different directions. Successful companies that we see are the ones that really can manage that noise and can look at that and say, you know what, here is what's important, here's what I need to focus on. That is a very hard thing to do. I mean, I can't, I'm guilty of it myself. You can go through and look. Having that direction and having that focus is what really separates, those high performers, I believe. In that, the first thing that we see is when you're being focused and you're being deliberate, you're not making knee-jerk reactions, you're going through and you're analyzing, but not over-analyzing. It's very easy to get into, the good to great paradigm where, perfection is the enemy of done, right? You can go through and you can over evaluate things. That's not what you need to do, but you need to be focused and deliberate in your business. One of the things that we see, a common thread that we see in the roofing space from our roofing customers is really, we'll see somebody that starts going through and they're maybe a year or two in the business and they're having some success. Things seem to be going pretty well for them. Then what happens? They see a friend that started doing commercial work. So I've been running residential work. I've got my crews going pretty well. We know how to sell it. We're starting to have a little bit of success. And then all of a sudden I get an opportunity. I say, you know what, man, a commercial job, I'm going to go sell that and make $5 million. Well, running a commercial job is a lot different than running a residential job. Running a retail job, different process than running an insurance job, a restoration job. So our advice is to people is focus and really tune your business. Focus on what are you good at? What are you making money at? What is something that you can make repeatable? Focus on that. Once you get that dialed in, start growing. And now you have that conversation or that question, do I scale up or do I scale out? Am I going to go through, if I am the best person at doing new construction, am I going to go regional? Am I going to start opening other offices? Or am I going to add services such as restoration or commercial? You want to be deliberate, you want to be focused, and you really want to have your house in order before you go through and just make that jump. Don't put all your eggs in your basket. I encourage you to experiment and do that and grow, but realize there's different animals and different learning curves. Just because you're good in one thing doesn't mean you're going to be great in another. That pit, we see people do that all the time where they jump from residential to commercial and get themselves in trouble. Or the other one is, they're in a market, they're having some success, and then they go to Florida. And hats out to anybody that is roofing in Florida. I cannot imagine, with all the inspections and all the permitting and all the stuff that you go through, it's really funny when you see somebody and we'll get a customer like, yeah, I'm going to Florida. I want to start working the hurricanes. And you're like, oh no, I hope they have everything together because they may not come out of that at the end. So have the focus. Don't be afraid to grow, but be deliberate about your growth and focus on what's important is how you're doing it. So next piece, I think, as I can imagine, a lot of people on this call are probably sole proprietors. They started out the business and they're growing. Well, how do you grow beyond one, right? I think that's the next topic that I would talk about. It's very easy to go through, you start having success, and now you want to grow. letting go and being able to delegate and to be able to find the right people that you trust to take your name, because after all, as owners, everybody's representing us. So it's really hard to let go of that and let somebody else take over some of those areas. The successful companies that we see are the ones that go through and they found a way. How do I go from that founder to a company? I used to call it, when we were at OE Connection, we said we transitioned from a startup to a stay up. And that was really about having the right people. You know, you want to have the right seats on the bus and you want to have the right people in the seats. Very hard, if not impossible, to go through and scale a one-man band, right? If anything, that this virus, one of the things that I took away from the virus in the times that we're dealing with now is you really look at it and you say, boy, do you have succession planning in order? How many of us have that one production manager that everything is key in their business? That person gets sick or that person leaves. How does that business continue on, right? So in this world, we're talking about succession planning. How do I go through? Because if it's me and I get sick, I'm a sole proprietor, I get sick, my welfare, you know, my family, everything is tied to that. That's not a great situation to be in, right? So now you start trusting people. You start bringing them into the business. Well, now you got to weigh that, and you got to be careful that if you have all your eggs in one basket, how are you going through and mitigating that? So I think that with this virus, we've seen cases where somebody gets sick and the company didn't have the processes in place to manage that. They didn't have all the contingency plans put together. So I would encourage you, it's important as you scale up and scale out, as you can imagine. But I think with today's world, I think that's another good part about this. You know, 3 weeks ago, so we live in Cleveland, Ohio. Our company was locked down for about a week, 2 weeks now. We were really ahead of it. When we started seeing what was going on, we had everybody do a test of our disaster plan and everybody work remote. And we tried that, and actually in a lot of ways we were more productive. There's some challenges associated with that, but we did that test. Once we proved it worked, we started you know, kind of sheltering in place before Ohio even jumped in. So I think that done right as a business owner, we really got to stop and look at this, and I think that that's a good thing that we could take away from the virus. As John said in the beginning, we can all come out of this as healthier businesses than what we went into it. Managed services, I mentioned I was running IT departments. That was a lot of what we did, was help with business continuity and helped provide. Even if you had somebody internally that ran your IT, we would come in and kind of do staff augmentation, help them when they had a crisis, help them when they had a growth period. So in the roofing space, again, trying to take my experiences and relate it back to the roofing industry. There's two situations that I've seen where roofers are applying this principle. First is in insurance restoration and the supplementing process. There's companies out there, I think we've all seen and heard of supplementing companies. That is writing an estimate, writing a good quality estimate, and managing insurance companies. That's a big task as companies scale up and grow. Some people choose to do it internal. Some people choose to rely on one of these supplementing companies. Shout out to Derek Ford at Scope Pros. That's a customer a company that had been serving a number of our customers, then actually became a customer of ours. So we helped them and their customers all manage the claim process through GiddyUp. What I would encourage, even if you have that best supplementing person, should you have a relationship with a company like Scope Pros or another supplementing company, there's a million of them out there, to help you in case your person got sick or your person was unavailable or your person decided, hey, they want to leave. And I know no roofing owner has had this happen where all of a sudden an employee decided they could do it better, and they're going to start their own, their own business. So what we always encouraged was having other back plans and having relationships in place ahead of time. So maybe you don't do all of your supplementing through them, but maybe you try that out and you do, a couple a month just so that they know you and know your business. So if you have a huge storm and you can't scale out quick enough, now you could rely on that external vendor. Or let's say that you go through and that person leaves. Now you have a backup to get you over it. Another perfect example of that is Higgs Professional in what they're doing managing production, right? So we all know there's a lot of different aspects in the roofing space. You have to be good at canvassing. You have to be good at sales, marketing. You have to be good at running the production. You have to be good at handling the estimating and the insurance process, running your back office. Well, I'm here to tell you that we've seen a lot of companies and a lot of solutions that have popped out. So you may not, you may be the best person at going out and closing business, but how do you take that business from closing it to, managing that estimating process, managing the claims process, and actually delivering it, doing the production? Companies like Scope Pros, companies like Higgs Professional, and a whole host of others, those are the two that we work with and we prefer. I'd encourage you to look at those, maybe not as they're not mutually exclusive. Maybe you don't move all your business there, but you have that as a relief valve or a contingency plan. So in all of that, we talked a lot about people, right? So successful customers that we have, it's funny, they have the right people, they have the right culture. I think SRS kind of exemplifies that, right? Having the right people in place and people that are passionate about the business, that are going through they make their boss's job easier, right? That's why we all hire employees, to make my life easier, to go through and move us further. So I think, first thing that we see from the roofing space is you have to decide, what is your approach to your labor force? Are you going to be outsourcing certain areas of your business? Are you going to have W-2 employees, or are you going to have 1099 employees, right? Those are decisions that, a lot of times people ask us. We're not here to be business consultants for you, right, to tell you what's that right approach. But I would tell you, you should be deliberate about it, and you should have a strategy for it. Next piece in the people world is really taking that and breaking the role down into different pieces, that specialization of occupation. Being able to go through and say, here's my claims person, here's my production person, and have those roles and those job descriptions. Successful customers that are growing over and over again, that's a trait that we see that they all have. They figured out how to specialize their workforce. We've actually taken that to an extent in our software in GiddyUp. We call it back office. So we've taken and seen that as you go through, there are certain tasks and traits, managing permits, managing production, managing inspections, managing collecting AR. These are things that software, you could do in anybody's software, right? And you go through and you can click on all these screens and you figure out how to do it. What we've done is we've created back office in GiddyUp. And what back office is focusing a screen that is task-driven. And what we found is it's just like having a call center. Now our customers are able to go through. If I have somebody or a team that's just managing inspections and permitting, bam, I go into one screen, and I've made all of that very easy for that person. So I think that's something that you want to look at as an advantage. As you go through and you define those clear roles, now you're able to go through and start gaining efficiencies. Another perfect example of that is the recruiting process, right? So getting people, we talk about the need to have a solid team, a team that you can trust, a team that believes in your secret sauce and is going to, live and breathe your company and your vision every day. How do you find those people? That's a hard thing, and especially in the roofing side, finding the right people is a process. You want to sell these applicants on your company and on your process, and you want them to be passionate so that goes out to your customers. So very important, that whole process of hiring and bringing on new people in your business, which leads me to process. So this is a slide. Yes, I love donuts, but I don't know how many people remember the commercial, Time to Make the Donuts. Years ago, every day you'd see somebody would get up every morning at 4 a.m., go to work and make donuts over and over and over again. Well, I think that's really important. And I know John talks, he gives an example of Budweiser. Every time you can go to a ballpark and pay $12 for a long neck bottle of beer, or you can go to a bar down the road and pay $2. Right? It's the value that you're selling as to what you're going to get, how much you're going to charge for that. The thing that I look at is every time you went and you had that Budweiser or that Corona or whatever your drink is, if you think about it, it tastes the same everywhere you go. That's what I would ask each and every one of you is the experience that you are delivering to your customers repeatable and consistent and the same? If I go do Susie's roof and I run it, my sales rep sold it, my production manager ran it, and then I go down the road, 10 houses and somebody else sells and does Bill's house, Susie and Bill talk, did they have that same experience, right? So that marketing and that image and all of this matter. And it's about the processes that you have. Customers love consistency, right? You go to McDonald's, you're going to have the same quarter pounder everywhere in the world. How did they do that? They did it through process. That makes it repeatable. It must be well documented. You need to spend that time building that documentation internally, and it must be taught to your employees to go through and move forward. If you're doing that, the irony here is you spend the time, and it is a time, we're all pulled in different directions as business owners, but if you invest in that time, that's a value to the business. So I can't tell you how many people we've seen that go through and they build up a company and they're a $5 million company and they want to sell it. Well, is that company worth $5 million? Is that company worth $10 million? Or is that company really worth nothing? Right? Having those processes and those procedures in place, now I'm selling the business. I'm selling, this is the process that gets the 5 million. It's repeatable. Without that, is there really value to the business, or is there value to the person? Once that person sells and leaves, where's the value in the business? So something you want to think about as you're going through this. Successful companies that we see grow, year over year are ones that are really good at recruiting those people, and they're really good at onboarding those people. So some of them even have, they'll call them different things. Some of them call them universities. And we have one client that goes through, and they call it a university, and it's a week-long training class where you go into there and you're there 8 to 10 hours a day for 5 days, and you are learning industry, because let's face it, if you have a door knocker, a sales rep, and you're recruiting them, they may not have come from the industry, and sometimes you don't want them to come from the industry because they may have baggage, right? But now you have to train them on the industry, and you have to teach them roofing, but you also have to teach them you have to teach them the company and the culture and how you do roofing. So if I am XYZ roofer, I have my secret sauce. Just as important as that domain knowledge or that base roofing knowledge, I want them to know this is how I do it, and this is what I want to represent my company. all of the software and all of the things that are out there, there's a group that goes around and talks about how we need to bring technology to the roofing industry. And I think roofers are inundated with technology. How many different apps and programs and pieces of technology are you using to run your business, right? And I think, we constantly get told, we have one customer in particular, I want less clicks and less apps. I want it streamlined, because as they scale and grow, what they found is now all of a sudden I have 2 apps, 3 apps, 10 apps. All of this technology I've used to run my business does no good if your people don't know how to use it. So onboarding, think, what are you doing when you have a new hire? What are you doing to help them become successful? And I think we're all guilty of that. I know I'm guilty of that. It's an investment in time and energy and resources that you're taking from doing other things. But I truly believe, and I think we've seen, companies that are doing this, they're able to grow and scale out. Having the systems in place. So we've talked about people and process and all these things. This is all great. If you don't have the systems in place to help kind of manage that and enforce it, how do you stay on top of it, right? I told you to do this. Did you do that? Managing employees takes away from us doing other productive things. Having the right systems in place, and systems being software or systems being processes, all of this, if you have that done right, that can be a thing that really kind of propels you. When you have those systems, what it's going to lead to is really kind of the next piece, that is automation. So I think that if you go through and you find, I know in GiddyUp, we'll define processes and we help somebody lay out their process. Well, the system is designed to kind of enforce that, right? Because we're all going to have missteps. Everybody's going to be busy. What you need to do is go through. If I said I sign up a customer and then I'm going to do a welcome call and I'm going to send them this email and then I'm going to do these 3 steps, is that occurring, right? So in GiddyUp, we focus on making sure we're doing that, but then we're going through and we're adding in automation. And I think that's something that we see customers that adopt automation and start switching from managing by events or things that occur. I like to call it managing by exception. So we can go through and we can automate and say, great, when this happens, I want to build a rule that sends an email. Now we're taking the human element on it, which helps me scale and grow, because I need less people if I add the automation. But the thing that I caution everybody about is really what you want to look for. We call it the golden path. If you have a process and you go through, this is the path that happens. A mistake that a lot of people do is they'll go through and they'll use chatting, or they'll go into an app and they'll have these features and they'll say, hey, did anybody do this? Hey, what about this? It's kind of like a messenger. Is an effective way. That makes it where it's interrupt driven. And what we've done, and I think everybody sees with messaging and texting, everybody wants something now and there's all these distractions. We're creating a ADD culture where, oh my God, to run my business, I have all this stuff going on. How am I getting through it? What we like to say is have the system in place, have the processes in place, and now look for the acceptance. If this is my golden path, I'm going to automate and let the systems and let my team and my people manage it. But we all know, anybody that's done production, anybody that's worked in a trade knows how it was estimated and what those conditions are in the field, drastically different. So what we want to do is look and manage by exception and look for when this occurs, because I know something's going to occur, do I have the process to handle that? So successful companies are really doing that. Relentless execution. There is something about that founder, and then hopefully you're going through and getting it into your team and in your people, where they have a drive. They believe in the company so deep. They have such a passion for that company that it will not fail, right? They have that drive. There's that relentless execution. They've laid out the process. Everybody could go out and lay out a process and say, this is what we're going to do, right? I want my salesman. Here's my job turn-in packet. Here's all the steps. If you don't go through and enforce that and you don't stay focused, execute on that, are your employees doing that 6 weeks later, 6 months later? So you guys spent all this time re-engineering your business and your process. You have it so you can scale. Well, anybody could do it that one time. How do you go through and make sure that it keeps going? And that relentless execution, the pilot, and I love this picture, the pilot with the checklist. I want to sit there on the taxiway and I want that pilot to make sure everything is done. They have a checklist. As business owners, are we doing that for our business to make sure that we're consistent and we're relentlessly executing? So the next slide is, again, relentless execution is, as you go through, we think we've all heard that saying, hire slow and fire fast. Sometimes you're going to get in there and you're going to find people, and this is a mistake we see oftentimes, where you have a sales team, and this is a $1 million producer, and you go through and you're saying, great, as a company of 3 people, 5 people, this $1 million producer, he isn't adopting what we want to do. My goal isn't to be a $5 million company. My vision is to be a $20, $30, $40 million business. That person will go through and fight me tooth and nail. I don't want to turn in this job packet. Hey, I'm a sales guy. I bring you this amount of revenue. We have seen over and over again where customers have a person in the group that's kind of stifling their growth. I don't know if anybody on this team or in this call has read the book, Who Moved My Cheese? Typical management fable that talks about change. Very thin book, available on Audible. I would encourage all business owners to listen to that. If they're trying to implement change in their business, you'll start looking and seeing the characters hem and haw, and very telling fable that I think everybody would enjoy and learn from. So if you have those people that aren't following what you're trying to do as you're trying to scale up and grow, it's going to be painful, but I would recommend get rid of those people and invest in the people that have the same vision and see where you're going as a leader and where you want to take the business and the company. Last one is speed. So everything that we've talked about, the people, the process, the secret sauce, having all the systems, adding the automation, relentlessly executing, one of the things that's a byproduct of that is really speed. So imagine that you are insurance restoration and you want to have a national footprint. And let's say your goal is when a storm hits, I want to be going through and I want to evaluate that storm. I want to be able to open an office. I want to be able to have my salespeople on the ground within 24 hours. I want to be roofing within 48 hours. Is that possible? Well, I think, I can tell you it is possible because we have a client that's amazing that way and that does do that. But what do they do to do that? How do they have that speed? How are they the first person to go into a neighborhood and knock? All the stuff that I mentioned really kind of plays into that. You need people, you need process, you need all these pieces, you need everybody firing on all cylinders. And what that's going to give you is that, the early bird gets the worm, the first one in there. If you got 15 people going in there knocking on doors, you want to be the first. Well, that speed really is a byproduct of the other things that we talked about. So those were really the pieces that I've mentioned. So this is that shameless plug or shameless commercial. I talked about GiddyUp and the secret sauce. Our secret sauce, as I mentioned in an early slide, is really we look for ways to fit the software to the company, not the company to the software. And I can tell you, every one of our clients is different. And my advice to everybody is look for somebody, if you are searching for software, look for somebody that's going to be a partner, not a vendor. If we're talking to our customers and we're viewed as a vendor instead of a partner, our company has failed. And I truly mean that. And I know that, you look at what SRS does and the investments that SRS makes, having John go all over the country teaching people, how do we grow? How do we do things better? I think that's recognition that when we're all successful, when we all come out of this, the more successful we are, it's because it was that team effort. So look for that vendor, the partner. Fitting the software to the company is important. My training and my experience at that large construction company showed that everybody has their own secret sauce, and really the money is made in the field. And who am I? I'll be that proud computer geek that says, I really know how to build computer software. And I'm going to be the first one to say, I don't know how to tell you how to be the perfect roofing company. But I know if you have the secret sauce, I know one size fits all. Having a cookie cutter approach is great for software companies because it's less overhead, and here, you do it this way. But what we try to do is really change that and say, great, here's the start. How do we take your secret sauce and implement all those things through so that what you do to grow your business, the thing that you found that works, you're not adapting your company to us, we're adapting us to you. So very important. Another thing that we do that's different is our pricing model. So as a person that spent a lot of time in the trades, I recognize, everybody hates long-term contracts, so we have no contract. Second thing is that we're seasonal, right? And different parts of the country obviously are different, but in Cleveland, Ohio, not a hell of a lot of roofs going up in February. We get sun maybe 3 months out of the year. So what we've done is we've really changed, and last year we came out with the price model. We dropped all of our annual contracts. We stopped selling by the feature, and we say, all the software that we have, we're going all in with roofing, and we're going to say, here is a suite of software, unlimited users, unlimited features, unlimited locations, and we're only going to get paid when you win the job. So we charge $55 for jobs that you win. All of our customers can hire as many canvassers, as many salespeople they want, and not have to worry about the overhead associated with bringing that person on. As they go through and they sell and they start becoming an asset to you, now all of a sudden we're taking that software cost and really moving it from an overhead into a job cost. And a lot of our customers are actually including that as some are even making money and saying, hey, there's a $50 or a $75 or $100 technology fee in the job that they end up pulling out of the job cost before they pay commissions. So that's something that we do that's a little bit different than many. We thought we were brilliant last year. There's highs and lows. So as you go through and you scale, obviously the more you scale, the better off we are. So we are in it as partners. But in situations like this where people aren't working and there's the virus going around, our customers also aren't paying for users that are sitting there turning off users or locked into these long-term contracts because they're only paying when there's a job. So we truly mean that we are partners. We're in it with our customers in the good and the bad. So that really concludes my presentation, and I want to thank everybody on this call for joining. If you want, you can go to GiddyUpRoofing.com and schedule a demo, and I want to thank SRS. SRS not only has been a great integration partner, our customers are able to send orders using Roof Hub, where anything that SRS does in Roof Hub, we're able to leverage and do right inside the CRM. So that's been outstanding, and I'm proud to say that not only are we doing that with SRS, but SRS is now a customer, and their commercial division is using GiddyUp and our customer portal to start delivering quotes and managing their commercial business. So I thank SRS again for being such a great partner and peer in the industry with us. Thanks again, John.
Yeah, and guys, I would encourage you, we're going to send out a follow-up email kind of recapping some of the things that Jeffrey talked about, and there'll be a link in there for you to reach out to them if you do want to just take a look at their software. And again, Jeff talked a lot about commitment and being a partner and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I think his pricing model really does speak to the fact that he has a vested interest in helping you guys secure and win the business to the point where he's not going to get paid unless that happens. I mean, you can't look for a better type of situation to create some synergy. But if I could just recap what we talked about today with just one, thought. There's a book out, I talk about it all the time, called The E-Myth Contractor. And one of the things Michael Gerber says in that book is that the difference, between, good businesses and truly exceptional businesses, or the exceptional businesses are the one where the business owner focuses on the business and actually acts as an owner and not as an employee. And I guess what Jeff's kind of challenging us to think about today is, do we own a job or do we own a business? And if we own a business, then we need to start as owners thinking about some of the things that he mentioned, things like processes, the things like culture, things like systems, things like what are the secret sauces that are going to differentiate us and help us escape that price-driven sale. I would assert that, the more you guys focus on that, the better off we'll be in the long term. And one critically important thing to think about is in order for you to focus on an area of the business that Jeff just talked about, you're going to need to delegate one of your hats to somebody else in the business to take that responsibility off of you, because we know that you guys work too hard. And if you want to focus on culture, if you want to focus on systems, then you're going to need to take one of those other things that's currently bogging you down, and you're going to need to empower somebody else to take ownership of that so that you can then focus on your owner's job description. Jeff, thanks so much for your time. And guys, we'll post a recording of this webinar on the SRS website. That's where we're going to be posting all these recordings. If you go to the COVID response landing page, by clicking on the banner at the top of the SRS landing page and then click on the webinars tab, all of the webinars that we've put on and will put on, we're going to post recordings to those. Thanks, guys, so much for being involved. And if there's ever anything that I or SRS can do for you or that GiddyUp can do for you, please don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you.